Last night provided a moment that no one could have planned in a world where reality TV is fueled by shock value. As rumors went viral on social media, whispers became roars. Claimed to have been caught in a furious altercation with Evelyn. She is notorious for having a fierce temper and having no tolerance for disloyalty. The cause a shared boyfriend and a passionate night that, according to supporters, has already been broken down frame by frame. We're not claiming that this is true, but the noise level is overwhelming. Witnesses to the live events claim to have witnessed Ty's behavior abruptly alter. She demanded answers, her voice cutting through the din. Evelyn's composed, almost arrogant demeanor only fueled the flames. The crowd was frozen, the atmosphere was tight, and all of the cameras in the room were within seconds. Social media was ablaze with followers divided between incredulity and indignation as they stared at the two ladies standing inches apart, poised to explode. Was the ultimate treachery discovered in real time? Or was this a miscommunication gone awry? In any case, it set the setting for one of the most tumultuous evenings in the history of this performance and its audience. Before Ty even arrived, the room was already humming. Dot entered. When she did, however, there was a nearly palpable change in the air. Every single eye in the room seemed to be drawn to her. Every hushed exchange ended abruptly. According to later reports, you could feel the heat coming off of her, along with a sense of astonishment. It's as if she had a storm of emotions in her chest that was about to burst. She looked around the room until Evelyn, who was lounging at the far end of the couch, was struck by it, crossing one leg over the other. There was not even the tiniest trace of a smirk on her face. Since the previous evening, rumors had been circulating. However, no one anticipated that things would escalate so quickly. The topic of conversation was a man with whom both women had some sort of relationship. But the true catalyst to the supposed sultry meeting he had had with Evelyn a few days prior was the source of the fire. The producers loved it, but those who saw the live tape said they saw enough body language to know something was coming. The tension increased like a drumbeat as the camera panned in and the microphone remained hot. Nobody was able to stop. Ty wasted no time. She walked steadily across the room. Her heels pounded the floor in a precise rhythm as she took deliberate steps. She said steadily, but with a glass-cutting edge, "You got something you want to say to me, Evelyn?" There was silence in the room. Even the crew members' background conversation subsided. Slowly, Evelyn's eyes rose, and she gave a little shrug, the kind that could exasperate an already tense person. "It depends." Evelyn answered in an excruciatingly composed tone. "Are we discussing the truth or your version of events?" The crowd echoed with gasps. A few in the rear choked back laughing, not from laughter but from sheer shock at Evelyn's audacity. With narrowed eyes, Ty took a step. She lowered her voice so that only the front row and the microphones could hear her. "Do you really believe I had no idea where you were 2 nights ago? Do you believe I was unaware of what transpired?" Evelyn did not recoil. People have always talked Ty. However, you ought to be wise enough to not accept every rumor that you hear. Listen, a cast member moved uneasily in their chair, obviously undecided between staying or stepping in. After silently observing the entire event with wide eyes, Chantal leaned forward at last. "Maybe we should," she said. However, Ty interrupted her with a raised hand. "No," Ty responded, raising her voice. "This will not be dismissed under Thurog. You were very aware of how this would appear as you sat there with him in public. Despite knowing what people would think, you went ahead and did it." The live crowd was captivated. The collective was nearly audible. Take a breath. Awaiting Evelyn's response, she rested her elbows on her knees and leaned forward a little. "If we're being you, and I have played this game long enough to know that nothing is private, Ty, to be honest, perhaps he wouldn't have been searching for companionship elsewhere if you were giving him a little more attention." Ty's response was instantaneous as that line struck like a slap. The words tumbled out faster than even she had planned, and her voice rose to a near yell. "You want to hold me responsible for your decisions and actions?" She moved so closely that there was hardly any room left between them. And a production assistant, obviously prepared to intervene if things got out of hand, shuffled uneasily just off camera. a dot. Later, online viewers claimed that this was the turning point. The live stream's conversation room exploded. Some fans are justifying Ty's rage, while others are taking sides. Some have referred to Evelyn's poise as the ultimate power move. During the show, hashtags started to gain popularity as viewers shared slow-motion replays and video of each of the two women's tiny facial expressions. The stakes felt larger in the room than they did online, though. There was more to this than a man. It had to do with history and verbal conflicts that had been building for some months. Although this was not their first altercation, according to those with knowledge of the matter, it was by far the most widely reported. Everyone in the cast was forced to choose a side because of the betrayal, whether it was true or perceived. But Evelyn stayed calm throughout it all. She whispered Ty, in a voice that was nearly too quiet for the microphones. Ty laughed, but not in a lighthearted way. "You're letting them win. You're letting the whispers run your life. If you really believed in him, in yourself, none of this would matter." It reverberated off the walls of the studio and was bitter and biting. Try not to portray yourself as a victim in this situation. That night, you knew exactly what you were doing. Then there was a murmur about pictures coming from the opposite side of the room. Ty's head then spun around. Photos, which pictures? She made a demand. A dense silence, the kind that makes your skin prickle, descended upon the room. For the first time, Evelyn's gaze flitted. And it was sufficient to inform Ty that there was more to the tale than she had previously understood. The producers glanced at one another, realizing that the drama was just getting started. And the cameras became more focused, their attention on the two women at the storm's core. Time seemed to stop for a moment. Everyone in the room held their breath, anticipating the next discovery that would destroy what remained of the fragile. Her gaze was fixed on Evelyn, searching her face for any hint of remorse. But her expression was filled with serene Ty single quotations as the question hung in the air like a storm. Its cloud about to explode was unreadable, akin to a poker player who had been playing for too long to reveal anything. But the small flicker Ty she had previously detected assured her that she wasn't dreaming. There was something here that Evelyn didn't want her or anybody else to know. Before anyone could say anything, Chantel shifted uneasily in her chair and looked directly at the cameras. Realizing how unvarnished and unprocessed this moment was evolving. Perhaps she didn't start it this time. However, Ty abruptly interrupted, her voice trembling with restrained anger. "No, Chantal, this is the right moment. Do you think I'll hold off till the cameras are turned off? Do you really think I'm going to let her leave without telling her the truth?" The viewers muttered uneasily, feeling a revelation approaching. With a step toward Evelyn, Ty's words fell into a perilous silence. "Evelyn, what pictures are they referring to? Because you shouldn't have been someplace with him if I find out. And there's evidence. I'm not going to hold back." The eyes of Evelyn narrowed a little. It was too late, but it was a subtle warning. The microphones picked up a strong voice from the far corner. "They are discussing the photos taken on the rooftop." Everyone's focus abruptly changed in unison as the words seemed to reverberate. Ty's head jerked in the direction of the voice. "Photos taken from the roof? What photos of the rooftop?" she insisted. Even the workers froze at the sharpness of her tone. The microphones captured enough of what one of the makeup artists, who had obviously been attempting to avoid the scene, murmured to someone next to her to raise even more doubts. He was late with her champagne. With a look of rage and incredulity on her face, Ty turned back to face Evelyn. "Don't tell me that. Tell me you weren't on that rooftop with him." At last, Evelyn moved in her chair, bending forward and uncrossing her legs while speaking in a soothing yet acerbic tone. "You're behaving as though you own him, as though he were yours. Ty. In actuality, he makes his own decisions, hence he loses. And perhaps you ought to inquire why he decided to stay with me for the night." The audience's collective scream was deafening, while others snatched up their phones and began tweeting furiously to friends and followers about what was happening live before. Someone in the back mumbled, "Oh, she went there." Their eyes. Now quivering with a mixture of hurt and rage, Ty's voice increased. "Do you wish to discuss options? How about loyalty? How about some respect? Evelyn, you've known me for years, and you believe this to be acceptable? Don't give the impression that you are innocent. Evelyn shot back, her voice a little less composed than before. You've tied knots before. You've gone too far. The distinction is that when I get caught, I don't pretend to be the victim. It seemed as though the breath had been drawn out of them because of how tense they were. The space. A attempted to intervene, putting herself in the middle of the distance between them, but Ty swept by her, completely enclosing the space. Completely, Ty growled as he skulked behind my back. You've been grinning in my face, and you think I'll just sit here and take it? Now that Evelyn was standing, the two women were almost face to face, and their voices in heated outbursts. They overlapped. Well, Ty, I'm not skulking around. I'm going about my life. That is beyond your control. You call it living your life. I call it betrayal, Ty repeated, her voice brimming with incredulity, and the crowd soaked up every word. Hashtags were already trending, and fans were analyzing every word, every glare, and every subtle change in body language as the online chat section exploded with comments. Some supporting Ty and others applauding Evelyn's unrepentant stance. The real shock, though, came when a production worker, obviously attempting to control the chaos, stepped forward holding a tablet. They whispered to Ty. You should see this. Ty grabbed the tablet and looked at the screen, and whatever she saw caused her lips to part in silent disbelief. She briefly turned the screen to face the audience, and then gasps broke out once more. The image was blurry but familiar, showing Evelyn, and the man in chase answered simply, "You needed proof." There it is. But it doesn't change the fact that he's not your property. Evelyn didn't even flinch as they asked the question on a darkly lit rooftop, champagne flutes in hand, their faces too near to be mistaken for innocence at the time. The producers, knowing that the drama was at its pinnacle, did not move to cut away. Instead, the cameras remained fixed on their faces, capturing every breath and every emotion. Ty spat back. He can be with anybody he wants, and you were more than eager to volunteer. The words hung heavy in the air, and even Evelyn's confident Fikwe seemed to waver for the briefest moment. You've made your choice, Evelyn. Now live with it, 'cause after this, nothing between us will ever be the same, she said, her fists clenched into fists at her sides. But she didn't strike. Instead, she took a step back, her voice suddenly lower but no less intense. The audience knew they were witnessing the unraveling of something greater than a fight over a man. Something about pride, about long-standing resentment, about years of history boiling over in one explosive confrontation that neither woman could leave unchanged. But she stood her ground, her gaze fixed on Ty as if daring her to say more. The room was already tense. The crowd, sensing that something seismic was about to erupt, fell silent as Ty took a single step closer to Evelyn, her eyes locking on a rival as if she could burn a hole straight through her, their collective breath held in anticipation. This was no longer just about a boyfriend. It was now a collision of pride, betrayal, and Ty's voice, low and steady at first, cut through the noise. You think I wouldn't find out? She asked, her tone dripping with resentment. Marcus, the boyfriend in question, stood a few feet back, shifting uneasily, as if every second in that spotlight was another nail in his coffin. The crowd gasped at her audacity. Several phones raised higher to catch every second, and someone in the back whispered loudly enough for cameras to record. Disbelief. Evelyn smirked, tilting her head slightly, her calmness almost inciting more anger. Find out what Ty that he and I have a connection. Marcus attempted to intervene, his hands raised like a referee stepping between fighters. But Ty took another step forward, the air between them practically crackling. A connection, she repeated, her voice rising. You call spending the night in his hotel room. She's not even denying it. And that only fanned the flames. You know, Marcus told me, you were dramatic. Ty gently pushed him aside, saying, Don't, not right now. She admonished him without removing her eyes off Evelyn, and her quiet, almost mocking chuckle caused Ty's jaw to tighten. "He wasn't giving you enough credit, in my opinion." The remark struck Ty hard, and his face the tension finally broke as Ty lunged forward. Not with a full swing, but with a forceful shove to Evelyn's shoulder, sending her staggering back a step. Fans on the internet would later slow down the video just to witness that precise moment. The change in Ty's expression from controlled fury to something far more dangerous. The two now toed to as the room erupted into chaos. Off to the side, security, who had been creeping closer for minutes, finally moved in. But Evelyn quickly regained her footing and stepped back into Ty's space. Chantal appeared, her expression a mixture of shock and something else. Perhaps fear or satisfaction as she looked toward Marcus. She screamed to him, "You need to fix this." But her words were overpowered by Ty and Evelyn's shouting struggle. "You're a liar," Ty yelled, her voice shaking slightly. "You've been sneaking around smiling in my face, Q, and behind my back." She poked a pointing at Marcus. "You allowed it to occur? Oh, please don't let anything happen." Evelyn interrupted Marcus as he began to stutter something about misunderstandings. "You've been too preoccupied with playing Queen Bee to notice when someone else is paying attention to him. So he came to me." That sentence sent a reverberation among viewers. It was like adding gasoline to an already blazing fire to imply that Marcus had turned too. Evelyn's company for solace because Ty wasn't there for him. From the far corner, Ty's shoulders rose and fell with every breath. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. Jackie moved forward after maintaining a cautious distance. She tried to break through the chaos with her voice. "Don't do that here, Ty. It's not the right time or location." Ty wasn't paying attention, though. "Oh, that's the precise moment and location," she retorted. Let everyone witness her true nature as a snake. At last, security was able to put a barrier between the two women. But neither of them appeared to be prepared to compromise. Evelyn spoke steadily and icily as she leaned over the guard's shoulder. "Perhaps you wouldn't be in this situation if you had treated him well." Shouts from the audience, lightning-fast camera flashes, and the hum of the live broadcast caused the room to erupt once more. The comments were scrolling more quickly than anyone could read them. Some supporters demanded that Evelyn be taken off right away. Others were asking Marcus for explanations, and a startling amount were defending Ty's response. Within minutes, the ferocious and immediate divide spread to every platform. Marcus eventually attempted to speak as the yelling died down enough to allow voices to be heard once more. "You two, stop. You're aggravating the situation." But his remarks drowned and went hollow, shocked by a new round of taunts from Ty, who said Evelyn had singled her out to gain favor. It was not denied by Evelyn. She only shrugged, which may have been more enragement than any real answer at the time. Jackie's eyes widened when Chantal whispered something into her ear, which was captured on video in a telling moment. Whatever was stated, it further complicated the already complicated situation, because Jackie's next action was to yank Marcus away and spoke to him in a voice so low that he couldn't hear. Ty saw right away. "Oh, so your small council is over there now." Pointing to the three of them, she yelled, "Preparing for your next deception." The optics were poor, but Marcus shook his head. She stood across the room, still in shock over the treachery, as three others clustered together. When the producers realized they were sitting on gold, they released it without trying to deflect attention or cut to commercial. This was all unadulterated drama at every moment, and they were aware of that the replay value would be enormous. Even those not directly involved appeared to be scared to act too quickly because the tension was now so high. As though a quick motion may set off another detonation. Evelyn then gave her last statement of the evening at precisely the right moment. Soft so far, yet lethal enough to cut through the cacophony. Perhaps you ought to find out where he was the previous evening. It had an instant impact. As the realization dawned on Ty, she halted, her brow furrowing. The audience as a whole pushed forward, eager for the next revelation, while Marcus's eyes swerved away, unwilling to meet hers. The space appeared to shrink around them. The air was thicker, the lights were harsher, and the truth, or whatever form it was going to take, was coming to the surface, hovering just beyond of reach. The night before last, Ty's breath seized in her chest as Evelyn's words replayed in her mind. The statement gnawed at her nerves as she silently repeated it. Her thoughts immediately went over Marcus's evasive justifications. His late-night text about taking care of business, and the fact that his phone had been conveniently on and silent. She had a little brush dot at the time. She told herself that being paranoid would only make him turn away. But now that Evelyn's gaze was fixed on hers like a predator enjoying its prey, all of the mistrust she had suppressed returned. What is she discussing? Each phrase in Ty's low, piercing voice cut through the tense atmosphere. Akaz stood up and shifted, sort of massaging the back of his neck. That made everyone watching feel guilty. "Don't do this here, CA," he whispered. With a rising voice, she reiterated, "Don't do this here." "Have you been doing this behind my back?" The audience whispered, "So." "I was with a friend, nothing more. A friend," Marcus said, trying to calm himself after the mayhem she had caused. Ty's laughing lacked humor, akin to that of the buddy who is currently standing next to you. She jerked her chin in Evelyn's direction, and the audience immediately responded with half-excited yells and half-gasps. Feeding the jockey, who had been silently observing, finally spoke up, saying, "If you have nothing to hide, just tell where you are." Marcus flinched at the directness of her question, and her hesitation was all the sign Ty needed. "Wow," Ty whispered, her voice shaking, not from weakness, but rather from the sheer effort required to suppress the want to shout. With her eyes still fixed on Ty, Evelyn cocked her head and said, "You didn't even have the decency to lie fast enough. Do you want to hear it from me? Okay, that night he was with someone else instead of me. Kay, she's also closer than you think." The words fell in the middle of the room like a grenade. Cameras focused on Ty's face as her eyes darted from person to person, seeking to discern the truth, and heads turned as whispers flew through the throng. The hitherto silent Chantel took a step ahead. "Evelyn, you don't have to play this game. Simply say the name." "Oh," Evelyn said, "I'll say it when I'm ready." Her voice was really calm. "I'm not here to keep her safe." Marcus's jaw tightened as I made sure Ty understood the type of man she was supporting. "Evelyn, you're manipulating this?" "Am I?" she fired back. "Or are you simply angry that the truth is now coming to light after being concealed for so long?" Now, the stress was intolerable. Ty's hands trembled as she attempted to figure out who Evelyn might be referring to. Faces raced through her head. Friends, relatives, and coworkers. Her gut lurched at the idea that someone she trusted might be involved. The silence was then broken by a voice